Hi, everybody. Good morning from Rye, New York. And I am very excited to have here my friend, one of the most interesting entrepreneurs out there, Anthony Iorio from Toronto. Good morning, Anthony.
Good morning. Good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Sure. Thank you for being with us again. Anthony spoke at our Blockchain Family Office online conference we've done. And hopefully we have a lot of plans for him to speak at our in-person conferences, hopefully soon, all around the place, in the UAE, in Canada, in the States. And let me start by reading a little bit of your exciting bio here. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And I hope I will ask some original questions that you haven't seen about Anthony's life and experience in other interviews. So Anthony Iorio is a Canadian entrepreneur, primarily known as a co-founder of Ethereum and an early investor in Bitcoin. He was the founder and CEO of the blockchain company Decentral and the associated Jaxx Wallet. He also served as the first chief digital officer of the Toronto Stock Exchange. Over the course of 3 decades, Anthony launched more than 10 companies and invested tens of millions of dollars in numerous industries, including blockchain. Anthony immediately recognized the paradigm shift from the age of computing to the age of information, more recently to the age of value. In late 2013, he founded and co-founded Ethereum, the decentralized smart contract platform that at its peak hit $150 billion in market cap. I'm not sure where we stand now, probably higher.
Over 200 billion now, yeah.
Currently, is the founder and CEO of the Decentral. Well, actually, I think he stepped down recently. We'll talk about that. A Toronto-based innovation hub and software development company focused on decentralized technologies. Decentral is the maker of Jaxx Liberty, a digital asset platform that has empowered millions of people with tools they need to control their digital lives. Well-versed in cryptocurrency, blockchain finance, and business, he advised a number of companies and as the chief digital officer of TMX Group, the parent company of the Toronto Stock Exchange, he explored ways to make exchanges operate faster and cheaper through blockchain technology. He shared his visionary insight with hundreds of thousands of people around the world. Since 2012, he has given numerous lectures, speeches, keynote addresses, and interviews, and even hosted over 100 technology events. He was a lecturer at the University of Nicosia's master's program in digital currencies and an adjunct professor at the University of Toronto Faculty of Law, teaching cryptocurrencies, crypto ventures, and the future of the exchange. Finally, in 2018, Anthony further distinguished himself as the winner of the EY Ernst & Young Emerging Entrepreneur of the Year Award and as the winner of FinTech Leader of the Year Award, and made Toronto's Life's list of the 50 most influential people. Good morning. How are things in Toronto? How is COVID doing in Canada? I hear from folks I speak to that it looks like Canada is going to be kind of one of the last to get out of this because of the pace of vaccination. How does it look like in Toronto?
Yeah, the vaccinations have been rolling out pretty slow. We've been in lockdown mode for a number of months. Things are starting to open up a little bit, but in general, things are still pretty restricted. There's still no going to restaurants. There is limited shopping now. It just kind of came back on. But it's been a very restrictive time, and it's been a time to focus, I think, and a time for me personally to focus on the things that I need to do, and I've been making the best of it myself personally.
Got it. I was trying to listen to your interviews and ask just the questions you will never ask. But if you can share with us a little bit, about your past. I mean, I would love to understand more before we'll get through your career and your views about blockchain and all of that, where you grew up. I mean, your family, your parents, your siblings, because I'm trying to figure out how you ended up where you have. Many times when I hear stories about people like yourself, like Brooke Pierce that I spoke with, not long ago, many people would say, oh, they had luck, they were in the right place at the right time. Your career obviously proves that's not the case. You've invented yourself time and time again with a lot of enthusiasm. So I want to understand more, how did that ended up happening? What your siblings are doing now, what your parents did, what's the kind of education you got? How did you end up here from that perspective?
Sure. I grew up just north of Toronto. Until I was maybe 8 years old, I was in a place called Gormley, Richchurch, Stouffville, just north of maybe half an hour, 40 minutes north of Toronto. And then moved to Richmond Hill, another city just a little bit north of Toronto. And that's where I grew up. Great parents, great family. I come from a British-Italian background. My mom's British, my dad Italian. 2 siblings. I was the youngest of 3. The turning point for me growing up was receiving my first computer at about the age of 8. And this was when the personal computing age was just getting off the ground. I was born in 1975. In the early 80s, my dad came home with an IBM PC Junior. He had previously worked at IBM and brought this computer back, and I was hooked. And that really was a defining moment of my life. And everything to me was computers growing up and going to camp for robotics and computers. And just very early on in gaming, when it was just kind of starting out. But before the age of the internet, I was on modems. So I was communicating with others, the precursor to the internet of, those systems where you're on the phone line and you're connecting to other computers. Very limited, but that's what I followed through that whole system. And never liked school very much. I was always someone that didn't like to be told what to do, and didn't like to be told to sit down or have to ask permission to do things. So didn't like school, loved my computer, loved reading mystery novels. Hardy Boys was something that was big for me. And when I was time to go to university, I didn't really know what to do. There was nothing of a real passion for me. Computers was something I knew. I didn't want to go to school for computers really, and I ended up going to school for business. My dad was an entrepreneur and always been an entrepreneur. And I went and got a Bachelor of Commerce degree from Ryerson University in Toronto. Did some work in marketing and then joined the family business in the early 2000s. And we had a family business of sliding patio doors. So my dad and his brothers had a manufacturing company and had about 100 employees. And my dad was always the problem solver. He was always the person that questioned why with everything, and is there a better way to do things? And that's really something that's one of the most important things in my life. Is I'm very similar. It's why is it like that, and is there a better way to do things? That's how I'm always seeing things, and it kind of can drive you a little bit crazy with everything. It's you walk into a restaurant. Why did they do that? Is there a better way? What if they had done that? What if they had this better way? Would they get more customers in? So it's a constant thing that I do. It's always questioning, very analytical. And I got that from my dad, an inventor. He is. He's the foremost technologist in the sport of curling. So he's coached a couple Olympic teams, and his equipment and patents that's really helped the game move forward and create a lot of technology in that sport. So he's always been a problem solver. My mom was a teacher, great storyteller. She reminded me a few days ago about the stories she used to do and supply teaching me and my colleagues. And to this day, I have people that were taught by her that remember Monkeys Fly, a story of hers that she talks about a game. And she's left a mark on a number of people with her storytelling. So university, went to work with the family. In 2008, my dad decided to sell the business, my dad and his brothers, and I had an opportunity to decide what I wanted to do. I didn't want to continue working with the company that was going to be purchasing it. And he said, what would you like to do now? And I said, well, I took some time to think about it, and I wanted to do something technology focused and something green, something there was a surge of green technologies emerging, solar panels, and we had a family friend that was the foremost expert in geothermal drilling. So this is geothermal drilling for heating and cooling buildings. You would drill holes into the ground, and you use the Earth's temperature to bring air conditioning and heating to buildings. And I bought a massive drill from Italy, proceeded to start a drilling company, and kept it in Italy for a bit, drilling for IKEAs. So we did a couple IKEA buildings there where we drilled hundreds of feet into the ground, hundreds of holes in the parking lot. And then the Earth's temperature was used to heat and cool these IKEAs. I eventually brought the drill to Canada and to continue doing retirement centers and homes and condominiums and large commercial projects. I got my first taste of government getting kind of involved with things that ended up leading to a negative impact on the ecosystem. They started putting a lot of red tape on the projects and really slowing it down, the drilling process. And it's already a very slow process. So it became unfeasible after a while to do the drilling. And they also had removed some incentives or some money that they would give to people for doing the systems. And that kind of, it ended up to a trailing off of green technology around that time. And I ended up leasing the drill out to another company. And I was at a time where this was about 2009, 2010. And I had been prompted by my brother to dig into what money was and the history of money. And I really did. I dug into it and I started learning the history of how money started and way back in the day, and started really learning more about economics. And this was at a time when the housing crisis that was happening in the US, or just afterwards, and the banking crisis. And I started digging into what had happened there and what had gone wrong. And I stumbled upon the Austrian School of Economics, which is a alternative method of economics as opposed to the Keynesian model, which is taught and pretty much used this day. And I started digging into personal responsibility a lot. It's always been important to me, and entrepreneurship and creating real value. And the Austrian school is really aligned with that way of thinking, and started understanding the role that the government had in creating the crises that had happened in the US. And I had a few properties by that time. It was around 2010, and decided to sell them, thinking that the same issues were going to happen here in Canada. So between 2005 and 2010, I did considerably well with some properties that I had, and I ended up having this cash and dabbled in gold and silver for a bit. Promptly lost about 25% of what I'd bought in gold and silver in a year, and it was about 2012. And as I was looking for I'd become enamored with freedom, the freedom movement. I've always felt, not liking school and not liking being told what to do. I'd stumbled upon a person called Peter Schiff, an economist, an entrepreneur, and someone that had predicted the housing crisis and the financial crisis, and had been laughed out of many a news studio, thinking he was crazy. This is before it all happened, of course. And then when it happened, he was someone that had predicted it, and someone that people looked up to, and I looked up to him, and started thinking of his way of thinking. And he had a podcast that I would listen to, and I listened to that for a year, gaining a lot of knowledge and understanding. And then looking for other podcasts, I stumbled upon a show called Free Talk Live. And on that first show, they mentioned something called Bitcoin. This was in the summer of 2012. I'm like, Bitcoin, what is that? And I looked it up and started reading on it, and reading the white paper by someone called Satoshi Nakamoto. And I just fell, hook, line, and sinker, and just understood this technology, this decentralized technology that empowers you to be your own bank, and saw it as a means of technology being able to take us out of these cycles of booms and busts, and allow and empower individuals to be in control of their digital wealth. So I just spent months devouring this new technology, and it's a decentralized system, meaning that it's not controlled or operated by one central authority or one government. And I'd been into decentralized technologies before, with the music scene and Napster back in the day, and that whole revolution of democratization of information that happened with the internet. So my technology background, my entrepreneur background, my economics background just really aligned. And for once, I felt that I was in the very beginnings of something, that I had the tools that I developed over those years to see something I was really passionate about and go head first. So I looked for a community to join, and there wasn't any, and I just decided to build it. So I started the Toronto Bitcoin Meetup group in 2012. And over the next while became a center of gravity in Toronto for bringing people together passionate about this new technology that I saw as more important than the internet. The internet did a great job of changing and creating evolution in things such as media, anything to do with information, postal services, all got changed and evolved because the internet enabled information to flow across borders and be able to copy digital information and share it with others. And that's what led to the revolution there with the internet. But I saw something more important emerging, and that's the democratization of value and the ability for someone to own an asset. And Bitcoin really, the biggest thing that it did, it made it for the first time ever you could have a digital asset that couldn't be duplicated. And that's a very powerful thing that, if you think about it, being able to copy a song and give it to someone else, you know, it has the ability to share that music, but it also has the negative consequences of rights and copyrights and things. So that's something that emerged there. But with money and digital money, if you can duplicate it, it doesn't have any value. It loses the properties of money, and that's the scarcity. You know, so Bitcoin introduced a new system where you could have something digital and not copy it. Meaning that if I had a Bitcoin and I send it to you, I don't have it anymore. You can't make another one of it. And if it has all the other properties of money, which I believe it does, the scarcity and fungibility, which means it's divisible in equal parts, and it's easily transferable from one person to another anywhere around the world, you have this system that has the characteristics of money and removes a lot of the friction involved with the traditional ways of moving money. So I really grasped it right around and started these groups and proceeded to be a center of gravity here in Toronto. And then I expanded out to Canada and created a nonprofit organization called the Bitcoin Alliance of Canada and started building my network out in Canada. And then traveling around the world and representing Canada as I would meet and grow my global network. And this is very early on when Bitcoin was around $10. I made my first investment then, about $8,000 at the time, and started looking for an opportunity that I could utilize my past skills to provide value in this space. My first business, I exited after a few months, and I did it for all Bitcoin. And I had, after a few months, a few $1 million from just getting involved in this new technology. Along the way, I had a partner that was a developer, and we started building wallets to hold digital assets. And if you equate what the internet needed to get off the ground, you needed a browser. A browser is what it's utilized to navigate the internet. It's what my dad uses. It's what anybody uses to navigate the internet. It's that interface to understand what's going on. And in cryptocurrencies and with Bitcoin, it's the wallet. The wallet is how you manage and move those digital assets. So I started building wallets, recognizing that interface is going to be what's needed and used by people down the road in order to navigate this new technology. So this was in 2013. Along the way, I met this gentleman called Untitled Chapter. He came to my first meetups, and I got to know him as he was traveling around the world. He was a young kid, about 18 at the time. And near the end of 2013, he presented me with a paper on an idea that he had. And I took it and introduced it to a couple of colleagues of mine. And together with them and him, I funded, based on what I had exited with the capital from the previous company, and I funded and we founded this project called Ethereum. And Ethereum is a smart contract platform, and that means it's a platform that takes in data sources and executes programmable code and carries out activities based on what those contracts say to do. For example, you could have an insurance contract that will automatically pay out the policyholders based on it raining a certain amount of centimeters on a certain day or something like that. So Ethereum is an evolution of Bitcoin that added a much more powerful platform to it. And we proceeded to raise $18 million at the time, the largest crowdfunded project of all time. And currently Ethereum sits at an over $200 billion market cap. It's being used by entities all over the world. It's one of the most groundbreaking technologies that's come out in a very, very long time. And I'm proud to have a part of that. And along with thousands of other people that brought this technology to the world, it sits number 2 to Bitcoin right now. And it's a much more powerful system than Bitcoin is. And it's spurned a lot of competitors now, but it's been really great being part of that. And I've since left the project in 2015. So I was there for a couple of years and got it off the ground with a bunch of other colleagues. And then I continued to keep building wallets, not just for Bitcoin, not just for Ethereum, but for all these different technologies, because there's going to be many of them, and they're each going to do different things. And I wanted to support the entire ecosystem. So that's my history of where I am right now. I still am the founder and CEO of Decentral, which makes Jaxx Liberty. It's a wallet that helps you manage digital currencies, and that's my full-time gig right now. And it's something that I'm looking to finally start growing and scaling. We've had eight years of infrastructure building, and even though we do a few thousand new users a day, we're finally going to start putting money towards user acquisition now that our infrastructure, which took a very, very long time to get where I wanted it, is at. And this year will be a year of scaling. And then my goal is to sell it and move on to some larger world problems that are on my mind that I think as a problem solver, which is what I consider myself, similar to my dad, is my duty to use the formulas I developed to solve problems to help some of the larger problems that are out there and provide leadership. And that's what I think I'm good at. And that's really what's driving me right now to exit the space with the capital in order to carry that on.
Thanks. Now, I many questions I have for you. Going back to your childhood, you mentioned that when you got your computer, that was the turning point, and you got hooked. And today you hear that parents' worst nightmare are Fortnite and screens. And you know, people keep on showing you research that screens messes with you and it's not good, and you become socially horrible, and people don't know how to communicate anymore and how bad it is. How do you see that?
I think everything's a tool. I don't think things are good or bad. I think it's how you use them. I believe that there are some very harmful things that happen on screens. I think the business models that revolve around advertisements that get people to create actions based on what advertisers want is a model that definitely needs some looking at. There's a lot of divisiveness and a lot of tribe mentality that's being spurned due to fake news and a lot of models that are leading people that don't even know down a rabbit hole that gets them into a certain clan or tribe, and to do things based on a lot of fake news that moves around. And fake news spreads much faster than regular news, and that's why it does, because it attaches the hearts of people and gets their emotions going. And that's what these advertising models want you to do, is to go do something based on you feeling a connection to something. So I believe technology is one of the greatest problems we have, and this is, being a technologist myself, I believe that it's one of the most challenging things, and it needs a rebuilding of the business models. I think that the maximizing shareholder returns model is the biggest problem the world has. I think that it's leading to a lot of the problems the planet has. It's leading to a lot of problems that people have. And it's come about because there's not enough problem solvers to recognize that there's better ways to do things that are going to create and solve problems for people and bring people together in a way that we can all win from. So the current models of month after month returning shareholder investors to these investors, or returning funds that has to consistently be growing. When you do that in a way that you can't think of a better way to actually achieve what you want, you end up having to turn down the dials on other things. And generally it's at the detriment of other people and planet. And we see time and time again, documentaries coming out of greed in any industry that's happened, because that drive for that almighty dollar has had negative consequences. And the business models that a lot of companies use, such as advertising, are leading and guiding people down a path to achieve an outcome that advertisers want. And those two things, along with the collection of information, which is a business model that I have identified years and years ago, is not a very good model, because you're taking something from someone, their information, and then you're giving them a service, but that information can get exposed, or it can get hacked from your centralized servers, and it can get out there. And people are questioning this now. They're questioning, why is it that I'm having to give out my information? And for 8 years, I built technologies that don't use those business models. I believe that your money, your identity, and your communication should be owned by the individual. I believe that it should not be unless you want it to, or unless you have a choice, it should be owned by you and not others monetizing it. So the business models that are used, which are selling information or advertising, are models that I've identified are just, they're leading to most of the problems that we see today. So there's got to be a better way of doing things. And the products that I develop are all about empowering people with the tools to be in control of their digital life. And what I mean by that is you don't need an email address to use our products. You don't need a name. There's all these, it's like, we don't want that information. Why do I want to hold that information and be responsible for it? You should be in control of that. So I build the digital tools that enable people to connect to these decentralized networks such as Bitcoin and Ethereum in a way that I don't hold your information or I don't have access to your money. So we're a wallet. We allow you to manage your digital currencies. But we've done it in a way that you hold the keys, not us. So I don't take custodianship or have access to our customers' funds. That's the money part. You should be in control of your money. I shouldn't be holding. I shouldn't be a third party that's taking custodianship. And then your communications as well. It's to me, privacy and is very important, and personal responsibility is very important. So for 8 years, I've been building these tools a different way than other technology companies do. And along the way, I've done it in a way that doesn't take people's money or investor money. I fund everything myself. It's one of my principles. I believe that as soon as you're beholden to others, you go down that really slippery slope of having to give those returns and having to maybe do things that you didn't necessarily wanted to do when you started out the company. And you end up going down to this road and this path that leads to the problems and leads to the issues. So I have certain principles that I stick to. I've developed certain processes, and I've developed tools over the years that have enabled me to think, I think, differently than the normal way, and challenge myself to come up with better winning solutions that are going to help and bring people together, that are not going to create division. I do it in a way that I believe it's my duty to be of service to the world and to use my problem-solving methods to be of service and to provide leadership to a world that's sorely lacking leadership, I believe. I think we've seen good examples of what leadership shouldn't be. And I really feel it's a duty of mine to bring forward models and plans and problem-solving capabilities that bring people together, create wins for as many stakeholders as possible, and create a world where everybody realizes by working together, we're going to see some great outcomes. So that's the path that I'm on, and I'm excited to do, is to use my problem-solving capabilities to be of service, and I do it because it makes me happy. So my what, my why, and my how is to be of service. My why is because it makes me happy, and I do it via what I call perfect formula. It's a general problem-solving method that I've developed that I'm releasing a paper on very shortly, which uses my tools and processes and principles in order to take a problem and take it through my processes and create a much better opportunity for a win-win-win-win-win-win-win for all stakeholders. And using perfect formula, it's my goal to change the incentive structures of the world from maximizing shareholder returns to maximizing positive impact. And it's my belief that if everybody's on the same line of creating positive impact and helping their neighbor and being of service, you're going to get the wealth you want, not the other way around. Because if you're doing something that's excluding a large percentage of the population, you're going to have competitors. You're going to have people that aren't for what you're doing. But if you can align everybody's incentives around the same positive goals of being in service and helping their neighbor, by joining that path, your life gets better. Nobody's against you. Even bringing competitors along. I've always been a big fan of working with competitors, and how do we create value, and identifying all the people that I'd like to see in the equation, and how I can use my problem solving to create win-win-win-win-wins for everybody.
And I see we have loads of questions for you. We'll get to those soon from the audience. But when you see the youth today, when your next generation is stuck in front of Fortnite, that also use their own advertising ways, right, to make you buy skins. When you're looking at YouTubers that have millions of followers, and all they do is just play games, and your kids are watching them play games, and people say this is a waste of time. This is just worthless. How do you see that? Do you think it's a very bad phenomenon, or do you think people can get actually good ideas out of that?
I think everything's a tool, and it's depending how you use it. I mean, you could use a hammer to put a nail in. You could use a hammer to cause harm to somebody. Everything's a tool. So I love staying in the middle ground on things. I'm not a binary person. I don't believe in the full right or wrong, or this very us versus them mentality, or a computer is good or a computer is bad. It's how the tools get used, and that's, I think, is what's important. There's nothing wrong with entertainment. I don't believe there's anything wrong with people taking people making their own decisions. Is very, very important to me, and I don't like to tell people what to do. For me, I like to learn. I like to use the tools of computer. It's something that I've grown up with. That's very important to me. Screen time is important to me too. I do a lot of my research. A lot of my learning comes from screen time. But it's really up to the individual, and it's up to the parents and the guidance, I think, and to bring the youth along into a way that they're just want to be striving for information and knowledge. And people can monetize, and people can get very good at gaming, and they can actually make a very good career at that. But it can also have negative consequences as well if done in an extreme fashion. So again, I don't think it's a right or wrong, or it's a good or bad thing. I think everything can be used as a tool, and that's how I like to see things like that.
And before I leave your childhood alone, your siblings, are you the only guy that ended up in technology, or they also somehow ended up in that area?
Yeah, no, my sister is actually, she's an editor at the leading blockchain publication called CoinDesk. My brother has had some blockchain projects before. So, I am mostly the tech guy. I am the computer guy. That's what I was growing up in the family and everything. So I am more on that level in that. But my brother's also a problem solver and thinks things differently. My sister, had an English degree, so she's always been in writing and in editing, and that's been her passion. And that's vocabulary, grammar has always been very important to my mom, and clarity of message. And I try to also carry that forward with my speech. I think clarity is very important. I think the brain doesn't like noise. So I'm a stickler for the importance of words. I think words are very important, and we need to be aligned on vocabulary and terms in order to communicate. So I do pride myself on having the ability to get my message across in a clear fashion that can be heard and understood by a wide range of people. And that's what I think I've been blessed to have, is the ability to take things technical and be able to dissect it and bring it down for those that might be many different ages or many different educational levels.
Now I have another question for you. Peter Sellers, when in the Pink Panther, he was trying to, there was this woman, she had all the reasons to be the murderer, right? She had, and he loves her, right? And he explains his PA, his guy, and he tells him, Maria Gabrielli held the knife. She wanted to inherit the money. There were blood stains on her shirt. There's this and that. And then he says, okay. His PA says, okay, so she's the murderer, right? He says, no. And he says, why? He says, instinct, you fool. And that's really because he was just falling in love with her. So my instinct, I want to ask you a question here. I have a feeling that there is two different tribes in technology. You guys, blockchain people, cryptocurrency people, and the normal, the other tech guys, right? Well, the other tech guys, all the cyber technology, all those, guys, they always followed, I feel, the exact route that you, by the way, I saw in many interviews, you always say, you don't believe in following a path and being told what to do, but they done just that. They went to the right schools. They went in Israel. They went to the army, the top, units. And then they did everything. They ticked every box in the book. You see them like that. And when I speak to blockchain guys like yourself, they are wilder. They are different thinking. They are all around the place. They like to do loads of things. Great people. Do you think, and by the way, some of your end causes are the same, because you want to do, and we'll talk about it soon, some good impact investing and good to society, and they share that, by the way. Many of them do share, but you guys come from two different worlds, it seems, and you don't really, it's like each is in his own world, right? They don't really communicate, which is an idea I had when you and I did the call with the Silverstein family, because it's people that are in different clusters, it seems. Is that right? Blockchain, cryptocurrency guys are somewhat different, think different, walk different paths?
Well, I generally don't like to put people in groups. I think that we have individuals who are unique, and people have different characteristics. And once you start putting someone in a group, you say, well, all those people are like that, and all those people are like that. So I was a technologist before crypto, so I was in the same realm as the technology people. But what we have seen is we've seen a lot of the very early adopters of cryptocurrencies, I think, are extremely, there is difference about them. They understood something very early on. They're some of the smartest people that you're going to find, biggest problem solvers out there, because it is a very technologically difficult ecosystem and space, and there's a lot of problem solving that's going on this. So there is a uniqueness, I believe, with a lot of the early on crypto people. But you do see a transition of the tech models coming into crypto. So everybody's kind of coming in together, and eventually everybody's going to be using this technology. So I don't think there's much of a divide on a lot of things. And I think you're going to see a lot of the early people to be extremely intelligent people that love to solve problems, love to do cool things. And they align a lot with the libertarian mentality, the freedom side, they wanted to be in control of their lives and wanting to help people and do things. But at the same time, you're going to have a lot of people that are getting into it for just wanting to make that quick buck. And there's going to be a lot of scams, and there's been a lot of scams and a lot of problems. And that's really unfortunate for the space. So I think it's just it's a melting pot of a number of different people for different reasons doing things. So I don't think it's really as divisive or as black and white as some might think.
Now, I wanted to ask you another question that I don't think anyone asked you. One of my questions, which I will probably not ask because, I wanted to ask you, did you knew that you're going to be that successful? Probably you believed in yourself and thought, yeah, I'm smart. I have, the power, the energy. I'm going to get to places. I don't know if you imagined that you'll become so successful. And
yeah, I sometimes, and I think a lot of people, you feel there's a spark of something there, and you're just trying to figure out what it is that you're meant to do. And when the internet came along in the 90s, I was just before I'd gone to university, and I didn't have the tools at the time in order to really navigate and be able to utilize that space to my advantage as much as I was able to do with the crypto space. So you do get to a point where it's like you feel this is why you're here. And I felt that in 2012. I felt those 30 years or that large amount of time for me was building up to that. And that was the opportune time where it culminated with me just having the experience by then, having some capital by then, having the economics background. The economics and theory of money is so important, and game theory. I just had, I think, the tools to be able to take that by the horns and be able to go with it. And then by building out a network, that was the really important thing is when you have this massive network of excited people around a technology or around something, ideas start flying, and you're in the center of it, and you're just positioned in a way because you've of the way you are and being open and trying to bring people together and organizing events and doing these things that things just seem to just grow. And I like to envision where I want to be and work my way to get there and piece things together to get there. But I don't know if my wildest imaginations would I think that I would found and be part of something like Ethereum in what it's done and becoming a household name with what it is and having pretty much every company in the world that's building in blockchain is using Ethereum right now or mostly are using Ethereum and getting something that would have a value, getting it up in the $200 billion range. It's just something that I'm super grateful for being part of, and I do think that I've worked hard and I've the struggle has made me. I think that's a very important thing is when you struggle, when you're your most dire times and your worst times can be the times where it makes you and gets you to where you are. And I've gone through those times, and I'm so proud and happy to have gotten where I am and respect the times that I've had, the challenges, the problems that I go through, because it's made me. And I think that's one of the important lessons that I think a lot of people don't recognize is your most challenging times, and getting through those are the ones that really can make you. And the struggle, that's been a key word for me recently is recognizing the struggle that I've had in the past, and the struggle my dad had and my parents had, the struggle of coming from other countries and setting themselves up here, and my grandparents. And it's that struggle that makes you. And it's something that I think instilling in the generations that are coming is very important. The work ethic, the principles, all these things to do to create a perfect formula for someone that's going to go out there and provide value to others and be different and be unique. So I don't think in my wildest imaginations would be where I think I am now, but piecing it all together, I've done it and I'm happy. And now to think that the next thing is to take what I've got and use it to help the world to be better and provide new ways of helping people and being of service is what really is motivating me now.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. And I have a tricky question for you, coming from the family office world. There's different kinds of wealth, right? I mean, there's the families that had generation upon generation. You're born into wealth, it's one thing. And then there is making it yourself, right? Completely different story. And definitely in technology where the sums are significant. And one of my friends spoke with a Canadian family, actually, that did a huge exit, hundreds of millions of dollars. What we heard from them was something interesting that I wonder, it's another, if it's something to do with, people like yourself, entrepreneurs that suddenly meet tremendous amounts. They felt like a lot of their friends disappeared. A lot of their friends, they didn't know if they were there because of them or because of the fact now they are super wealthy. They were bombarded by funds, and everybody and his mother were trying to convince him to do something and take away their money. They were confused. They didn't know where to go. And they actually said, I have to compliment myself sometime with this discussion, that when they came to our conference and suddenly heard about, family business and how to do things, they suddenly started to figure out what they should be doing. Is that a particular case for this family, or did you feel yourself that you had something similar? I mean, how was it to?
Yeah. It's daily I have people messaging me for money. You hear the stories of their hardships and their times, and it's very challenging, and it's heart-wrenching, some of the stories that I hear. I've as I mentioned, I don't take outside capital, so it's very important to me to not be beholden to others and to take personal responsibility and build things in a way that they can be sustainable with my own funding, because it helps me to move faster and at my own pace and to build what it is I want to do. But there's definitely a change over the last number of years with the amount of people that are looking for capital for things, and that's the way a lot of the system works. And there's nothing really wrong with that in terms of it works for a number of people. I don't like it personally. But I invest in a lot of projects, and I do put out a lot of money to fund other things, because I am involved in a number of different sectors and industries. But yeah, when you get to a certain point, there is a lot of people that want a piece of you and want a certain thing, and they don't understand what it's like when you get a certain point, and it's very challenging to navigate that with people. And I try to do my best with that, and try to do the things. At the end of the day, my goal is to do as much good as I can for the most amount of people in the world. That's my mission. So you need wealth to do that, and it's not just wealth of money. It's wealth of capital in terms of intellectual capital. It's wealth of trust. It's wealth of all the different capitals that are needed in order to be able to be a problem solver, in order to do the things that I want to do. So you need that trust capital. You need the knowledge capital. You need the wealth capital. You need social capital. And putting all those things together in a way that's directed towards helping others people gets you a good formula that I think people can respect. And hopefully I've done the things and have the principles that people can respect what it is I've done. And I don't pretend to know close to everything that's out there. And I'm just a student of this world and learning on a daily basis. And I don't know a lot, but I hope that I can do it in a way that I feel good, and I feel my parents respect what I've done, and I've been able to, I think, make them proud by going through and doing what I've done right now. And now it's my goal to ensure that I can pass that along and pass along what I've learned to others and help others. So it's challenging, but it's part of the thing. And these challenges of people that are looking for your time or looking for others is something that I'm navigating, and it's something that I learn from and I get better at, and I try to give back and try to do things that are going to give positive experiences to people.
And do you feel like socially there is a price that people are paying, people that have an exit? Suddenly it's weird with some friends, and they're jealous, there's tension.
Yeah, I've dealt with a lot of jealousy. Most of my friends, not so much. I've got really good old friends from many different, right back to grade school, to before high school, to my high school friends, to, I got a great core of friends, and 95% of them have just been generally supportive in everything. And that's just by having a good base of friends to begin with over the years. So you do get some situations where there's people that have expectations and have these things, but you navigate it, and you do it in a way that you hopefully, as a leader or as someone that you try to deal with relationships and how to handle people like that. So it's challenging, but those challenges are what gets you to the next level, and you've got to be able to handle those things and do it in a way that's respectful, and do it in a way that hopefully those people can see that there's positivity in what you're doing, and that might striving to help them out and help everybody out, that there's going to be a win for them as well.
And guys, again, I see loads of questions. I'll get to it in a second. I just want to talk a little bit about blockchain and a little bit about what you want to do now, because I know from having long discussions with you privately that, I mean, you stepped down from Decentral. You want to exit some of the businesses you're involved with. You want to do good to in this world. You want to take the power, the knowledge, the tools you have, and do something substantial. I know this is something that excites you like crazy, which is brilliant. What do you want to do now? What do you see in the future? How are you going to get that done? Any ideas already, or are you just starting to focus on your direction?
So I am still the CEO and founder of Decentral.
Okay.
It was a short-lived exit while somebody was going on maternity leave. So I actually have been for a while. So that was just a short-lived thing. I'd stepped down to focus on some more health initiatives, not with myself, but just to be able to get into the space of being able to assist those that have had depression issues and anxiety issues and things like that. But I stepped back into the role soon after. So I've been doing that, and it is my goal to grow the company this year and be able to sell it for an amount that I can then put towards my next project. And I haven't announced that yet, but it's something that's driving me right now. It's utilizing perfect formula, my problem solving formulas. My goal is to, again, change the incentive structures of the world, and I have a plan in place to do that. And maybe it's something we can do on a follow-up call once I do announce what I'm doing there. But now my focus is on Decentral and Jaxx and scaling and growing and maximizing that so that I can have the capital that I want to do the larger project, which is going to require a lot of capital to do what I want to do. And I don't want to get it from others, and I'm not going to get it from others. I'm going to get it from myself to do that. But it's a very ambitious goal to provide a new path, a new plan that says you'll get and maximize your shareholder returns if you focus yourself and what it is you do on being of service to others, because people want to align with people that are doing things for good and doing things that are helping people. So it's the thesis I have that with my new venture that I'm going to be doing, that the more you can get people to maximize impact, the more they're going to get the wealth that they want, the monetary wealth or those other things, not the other way around, not by excluding people. So I thought outside of the box, and I come up with a plan that really creates and adds stakeholders to the mix of what it is I'm going to be doing. And it aligns what people are good at, it gets people that are bad at things not doing those things, and it identifies what problems the world has. And I like to add as many stakeholders as I can to my problem. I call them micro problems and macro problems. You got micro problems, which are small little things that doesn't involve the whole world, which this could be, you have a child and you want to give it a name. You're going to decide how to solve that problem. Macro problems are larger problems. And whenever I'm dealing with a macro problem, I try to add the whole world as a stakeholder. And then I use my piecing together powers that I have in order to piece everything in a way that it creates a win-win-win-win-win-win-win for all stakeholders. And that's what this new project is going to do. It's going to take the world as a stakeholder, and it's going to identify those that have the ability to create the change. And it's going to align people on the same movements in order to create impact that's benefiting everybody. And I thought it quite well through. I think it's going to be something very powerful. And at the end of the day, I hope that it's something that is responsible for showcasing the people. The more you're doing for others, the more you're going to get for yourself.
I want to ask you about the criticism of the blockchain world. I mean, like the .com. I mean, the .com had stupid companies back in the day, just like blockchain had in 2018 and 17, a lot of companies that were ridiculous and just took money from people. But it had Silk Road, and it had a lot of issues. People criticized mining as polluting the planet. And, I spoke to the head of commodities at Bloomberg, and he said, well, you know what? Driving on a horse is something that doesn't pollute, and we don't go driving on horses, right? I mean, this is progress. And so this is one thing I wanted to ask you about. And the second thing, you see on one end, people like Rubini and Taleb that are saying blockchain, Ethereum, cryptocurrencies are worth nothing, zero. Mm-hmm. And then you see in the same week, Citibank or whomever it was saying it's going to be 150K Bitcoin this year. What do you think? Do you think they just don't understand? They are great economists. They just don't understand the future, where the world is headed to. Where do you think crypto assets are going to? Do you think we'll see Bitcoin, Ethereum still go way up? I'm trying to, a lot of questions I'm putting in one.
Everybody's trying to navigate this. You've got some people that maybe they have certain business interests that lead them to be saying certain things. And I'm not saying that's for the people that you've said, but you have other people that they're not understanding the way things are working and way things are heading. And that's okay. It's also can be very lucrative to be a contrarian, the way things are going as well. So I'm not sure. There's different angles for different things, but I firmly believe these technologies are going to provide an amazing things that are going to help improve lives of people around the world, empower those around the world to have bank accounts that they don't have right now in a lot of countries. The things that we're or many people in the world are just take for granted, being able to go down to a bank and do things. Well, billions in the world can't do that. And these technologies are open. They allow a lot of innovation to come in and a lot of progress to be made. But it's going to take some time, and the interfaces that the average person are going to need to use it are still being developed. I'm a firm believer that it's going to have a lot of change, but there's going to be a lot of issues that are going to arise from this as well too, and those need to be taken into consideration. Regulations, of course, are going to want to come in and be dealing with this, but countries are competing against others, so heavy-handed regulations might quash innovation in certain countries. So there's always a fine line that needs to be developed there between governments regulating and doing things and competing against other countries that are allowing technologies to flourish. So I don't know. I firmly believe my position on the things. I think that those that haven't seen it yet may see the light down the road. I was watching a video recently about when Amazon was just starting out, and there was a 60 Minutes interview where the interviewer said couldn't believe that there was a thought that Amazon could be worth more than Sears at the time. This was like in the 90s, and it's like, are you guys crazy? How is this a couple of little geeks gonna create something that's gonna be bigger than Sears Roebuck? And it was it's not gonna happen. So things can change, and things do change, and people change their minds, and I reserve the right to change my mind, and I think others should be allowed to do the same thing. And never say never. There's so much that's going to be coming out of these technologies that we don't even know are going to happen. I'm really enthused to see what that's going to be. And at the same time, we got to be mindful of the negative consequences that comes with any technology as well, too.
Okay, I have loads of more questions, but as expected, with someone as interesting as you are, loads of questions. So let me just start by looking at some of the questions from folks here. You mentioned that as well, what was Mr. Iorio's greatest challenge during the journey from the Austrian school to cryptocurrencies, and how did he overcome it? Yeah,
so I think my biggest challenge was I think very early on trying to find my position in there and try to understand what was going on in the space at the time. Ethereum was a challenge. It was 8 founders that got together of different beliefs and backgrounds that didn't know each other very well, and trying to get this new technology off of the ground that didn't want any leaders and needed to be concerned with regulatory environments. And it was a battle, and it was a challenge, and there was a lot of infighting, and there was a lot of decisions that didn't get made in timely fashions. And but wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change anything in my life. I'm happy to where things are, but it was definitely. I knew back then that I wanted to be my own boss and not have others partners. But it was such an opportunity with Ethereum that that was just something that was out of my control. So it was a challenge. It was a struggle. Learned a lot from there. Learned even more that I didn't want to have partners, and I liked to be in control of the situation. But it was probably that journey with Ethereum that was a real challenge, but also one of the greatest things that I think made me as well.
How do you describe the difference between money, or what best suits the use case? Transmit value over time, sometimes called sellability or marketability, store of value. How do you rate Bitcoin or Ethereum in satisfying these criteria?
Yeah, so I think Bitcoin has a lot of the characteristics that you need in a money system. People are gonna go to the fluctuating wild value, and I completely agree with that. It's also like a high tech stock as well. Over time, it's going to settle down. It's going to settle down more and more, and it's not going to have the large swings. But we also have currencies around the world that have super large swings on a daily basis as well. So I believe that there's a lot of properties that Bitcoin has that makes it a very good currency for medium exchange. It's divisible, so it's fungible. It can be divided each Bitcoin by 100 million units. It's easy to send from one person to another instantly around the world globally. It doesn't have banking hours where you can only do certain things. There's miners with Bitcoin that take some fees for doing the transactions, but generally it's much more efficient. It doesn't have the many middle layers of people that you would have when you're sending money from one place to another. It's got great qualities. It also has great challenges, and things like scalability and interoperability are being sorted out. but I'm very confident with the minds that are on these technologies, and that it's going to continue to improve, and it's going to solve the problems out there. So it's here to stay. I have no, I just don't think it's going away anywhere, and it's going to be fought, I believe, with certain governments and regulations. And I think anything that's being fought and wants to try and restrict things is going to be a challenge. It's nothing but ones and zeros, this digital information. It's what it is. It's nothing more than ones and zeros, this digital money now. And like information, it wants to be free. It doesn't want to be restricted. It doesn't want to see borders. And when you're fighting or trying to restrict things, it's generally not a winning game. So these technologies will enable advancements for mankind. It'll enable people around the world in order to enter this realm that they could never do before. So it's here to stay, and it's going to go through challenges, and that's all just part of it.
One of the previous guests, Mr. Afshin Afshar, actually, it's an interesting guy. I'm happy to introduce you guys. He's a very sharp guy. He was one of the heads of AI at, I don't know, it was JP Morgan or one of that, and one of those. And now he's got a fund that basically takes old school restaurants, logistics, and new school AI and all of that, and puts them together. You know, the guys that needs to understand they need to adopt to the new world, definitely during COVID. And they don't even have the money to do those transitions. That's what they do, and they invest in both sides. So this guy here is asking, Afshin Afshar also talked about the democratization of data. How do you envision doing this through cryptocurrency?
Well, democratizing of data is what really came about with the internet. For the first time ever, you didn't have to send a physical mail to someone. You could actually have email, and you could easily make a copy and send it to someone around the world. So that's where I say the democratization of information really came about, was there. What's more with crypto is more about the democratization of value. It's now being able to send something of value from one person to another, something that can't be copied, something that's scarce. And that's really the major breakthrough that happens. So but at the end of the day, it's still information. So now it's further democratizing information, and enabling value and scarce digital assets to be able to utilize in a way that has the properties of money. So internet started the democratization of information, and it's being furthered now and advanced by the democratization of information and value with cryptocurrencies and with blockchain and decentralized technologies.
And I will just pick a couple of questions, guys, because we've been here over an hour, and I don't want to keep Anthony too long. Do you agree with the statement, a store of value or wealth requires that you can exchange it? As that use case suffers, so must the price. How do you imagine the global economy, broadly speaking, I'm referring to fiat issuance and a credit-based economy, can coexist with private or non-governmental issuances of crypto?
Yeah, so we're far way off, I think, from not having fiat currencies or government currencies. I do believe that digital currencies are the future. I think there's going to be a shift to governments using these technologies, and there's a lot of benefits to using these technologies. It's easier to actually to have records and be able to trace back things. There's going to be, people don't like the idea, I don't think, of having to go to one country and then have to exchange a currency to another currency to use in another country. It's just full of friction, and there's going to be a meshing together of the two technologies, and I don't know where it's going to finally sit down and end. But that's to be seen. So I think that they're going to coexist for a while. I think there will be a lot of fight. I think the amount of fight is going to determine how long it's going to take for these technologies to really flourish and find the value. But at the end of the day, it will be mankind that does benefit from this, just like the internet did. The internet brought so many changes and so much evolution. And yes, there were negative things that happened, but the amount of positive connections, the amount of positive things that have spurned from this, I think people are going to recognize the same type of value from cryptocurrencies and digital assets.
And here are the crystal ball questions. Where do you see Ethereum price going in 2021? Another one asked in 5 years. Do you see ADA or DOT taking a significant market share from Ethereum?
So I don't generally do price predictions. It's not something that I do personally. I love competition. I'm a big fan of both ADA and Polkadot. There are actually two others. They're co-founders of mine with Ethereum, those two projects. So fellow co-founders started those projects as well. And I have a lot of confidence in the two leaders, Charles Hoskinson and Gavin Wood, from those projects. But there's a number of other technologies as well. And I'm all for it. Whatever provides value, whatever people want to use, the more competition, the better, is the way that I see it. So I'm in no means what they call a maximalist, someone that just goes to one thing. And there's a lot of Bitcoin maximalists and a lot of Ethereum maximalists, but I'm more about inclusivity and value. And I'd love to see whatever is going to provide solutions and come out to actually be the thing that's going to do better. So I'm all for something that if it has value. And I think there's just a number of different projects out there that have value in there and that offer different things than others do. And who knows where it's going to go down the road. But it's so amazing to see the amount of innovation, the amount of technology that's coming out of this and the amount of problems that are being solved. It's just a problem solver's dream.
What does Anthony think of the NFTs hype, especially after the Christie's auctions?
Yeah, so funny enough, I introduced Beeple, the person that did the Christie's thing. I introduced him to NFTs back in 2017. And he didn't grasp it back then, but he sent me an email in 2020 saying that, hey, he's heard about it again and he's getting into it. And he wished that he had listened to me back in the day there. So it's been around for a long time. I've known of NFTs for 2015, I think. And NFTs are non-fungible tokens. They're a way for you to have a digital asset that actually is associated ownership with a digital product. And you can prove ownership that you own something digital. So recently, Beeple, this artist, sold at a Christie's auction an artwork that he had, and it was sold for $69 million. Now, I don't find it that interesting to me. I can take a picture of that and put it on my wall. I don't think I'd be spending $70 million to be able to say I own that thing. So I think it's going to find its way. I don't think it's found it yet. I think there's a lot of hype and noise out it right now, but it's also a way for creators to now monetize and be empowered with their digital work. And that's super powerful for an artist who never thought that they could have something digital that they create and that others wouldn't just take it and make copies. Well, now you can prove you own something digital, but it's not like Bitcoin where you have it and so no one can see it. These digital art pieces, someone can see it. So it's going to find its niche. It's going to create a lot of a bubble, and it's, I believe, in a bubble right now and trying to find its value. It's going to come crashing down, I believe, and then it's going to slowly find its way to create value and improve. And that's just the way that technologies work, just like things like Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I don't find it too sexy right now myself. I've known about it for a while. I think bringing together physical and digital items is cooler. And it is an exciting space, and it is bringing a lot of people, though, into cryptocurrencies because people are hearing about it, and it is getting a lot of mainstream attention.
I don't have time to read everything that people write, how they enjoy a session, so believe me, they do. Do you see Ethereum transforming to a store of value for institutions in a similar way to Bitcoin?
I think people will use it like that, and I doesn't think it has to be one thing or the other. But the real power of Ethereum is it's a massive computer that executes contracts, and these contracts execute based on data fed into them. And it's really going to help to remove the non-value added participants in the equation between two people or between two entities. And that's really where it's going to be powerful. You're going to have eventually organizations that live on the cloud, that don't have a jurisdiction, that run via a contract and operate as a contract, and are not going to have legal regulatory issues to think about because they don't live in a particular jurisdiction. So it's opening the doors to a whole new way of thinking about corporate structures and governance and all the different things that maybe need an evolutionary change or need to be corrected here. So I think it will be a store of value, and it is used by a store of value by people. But I think the actual platform itself as a smart contract executable platform that can be used in many different sectors and many different industries is really where the value of Ethereum is.
Many people lose access to their Bitcoin by forgetting their passphrase. Is that going to happen to people who purchase NFTs, do you think? If so, who owns the digital art?
Yeah, so in cryptocurrency, it's all about being your own bank. You're in control of the keys. But that means you have to be personally responsible and understand how it works, because if you lose the keys, there's a potential for you just losing access to it, and no one will ever have access to it again. So it's a balance of user experience and creating tools that the industry is making in order to make it easier for people to ensure that they're not going to lose their keys. But that's what innovation is, and that's where if you have open source technologies like these are, you're going to get a wide range of people building solutions and solving problems. So what people are losing their keys now might not exist a couple of years from now because new ideas and thoughts are coming out. But I do caution people to ensure they know what they're doing, to align themselves with someone that's trustworthy, that they know that can get information, because it's all about knowledge. And there is a lot of people out there looking to steal from you, unfortunately. So be very cautious. Never give your keys out to anybody. do your research, start small, or these are all suggestions. I'm not telling people what to do, but I suggest starting small and making sure that you understand the way things work. And there's a lot of scammers out there. With our products, we have people that create malicious apps that look like ours, or malicious websites that are modeled after ours. And we're constantly battling with scammers out there, unfortunately, but it's just part of the game right now. And I hope that we can do things better that make it so that in the future, people are not losing their keys.
I've asked maybe a third of the questions I've had, so I really hope we will do another session. But the last two questions that I'll take from folks here. One is asking, what do you think of the basic attention token? And the other guy is asking, I'm investing in London on a project to break down the artificial banking barriers in international trade to allow the small producers to bypass the banking broker system. Do you have any thoughts of how we can use technology and crypto to make that happen?
Okay. Sorry, let's start with the first question. The first question was,
what do you think of the basic attention?
That's right, BAT. So basic attention is a new way where they have a browser, and they have a different kind of advertising model where you actually are earning for viewing things, and you're earning a token that's based on it. So it's taking a model of advertising, which I think people don't really like, and it's adding a little twist on it, and you're actually earning for the advertising that you're viewing and doing. So I think it's a great use case. I think that it's done very well, and I think it's not something that's actually got off the ground and actually people are using right now. So I'm hearing also a great advertising model as well that they do, and we're actually looking to utilize it as well for our advertising for Jaxx when we eventually start growing. So I don't hold any BAT myself, but it is one of the projects that I think is taking off, and there's quite a bit of use case for it right now. In terms of bypassing and removing the players, I struggle with words like that. I think it's important to bring people along and provide people alternatives, and that everybody has value somewhere. So it's about, for me, not bypassing these things and the people. It's how do I provide solutions that bring them along as well and provide them with better opportunities. Because if you create change that is disrupting people or getting rid of those people, it's going to create enemies, and it's going to create situations where you got to think about what are they going to do in response. So I'm always a big fan of creating new ways that you can actually bring more people along, even competitors, figuring out ways that you can assist them and help them and get them on your side. Because I believe if people's lives are improved by joining what it is you're doing, that's how movements are created. I really believe that if you can create solutions for as many stakeholders as possible, those people will join you on your mission. And if your mission is to be of service for the most amount of people, I think that's really how movements and great movements get created.
Anthony, I wanted to thank you. I'm very grateful to know you. You're one of the most extraordinary people I know, and thank you for sharing your thoughts and answering some very private questions as well. And I hope we can do another session to keep on talking about so many other questions I have here. So I wanted to thank you. We'll keep following up. And I wanted to tell all of you that next week on Tuesday, we have a discussion about two areas that family offices are investing in. Obviously, one is about building a crypto strategy. And on Thursday, we'll be talking about the cannabis world. And April 22nd, we all meet at the World Trade Center, at the rooftop of the World Trade Center with Larry Silverstein, one of the most respected people in New York history in real estate. And on the 27th is our next blockchain cryptocurrency DeFi conference, where my keynote is somebody I love, the mayor of Miami, that is just taking, it's not only that everybody are moving from California and New York because of Texas, because of weather, because of palm trees. Now he's actually telling people like you, Anthony, I'm thinking like you guys, I'm at the cutting edge of things, and I believe he mentioned that everybody can pay taxes in Bitcoin and crypto assets. So he will be my keynote then. So Anthony, thank you so much for your time, and I'm looking forward to meeting you in person at one of our events and take it from there.
Thank you so much for having me on, and thank you for the kind words.
Thank you so much, everybody. Stay safe. Bye-bye.